Hello.
I think we are live. Torri, welcome.
Did you feel very disconnected without your other half for that 30 seconds?
You know what? Potty Talk is birthed on the two of us doing it together. So just starting this live stream without you, it didn't
just
feel
felt
right.
wrong.
It did. It did.
Okay, well, hi everyone. So excited to be here. So if you don't know Jack and I, my name is Torri Webster. That is Jaclyn Forbes. We are the co-hosts of Poddy Talk podcast, and we are here to take over the Call It Spring account to talk to you about the business side of things, about turning your passions into a side hustle. And yeah, we've got a whole exciting sort of live episode of our podcast coming to you now. So really excited to be here. And so Jack, let's just jump it off by talking about the beginnings of the podcast. How did we get here? What were the stories? Because I mean, there are many, but there was sort of a key one that happened just over a year ago, I guess now, and that really birthed Poddy Talk.
Yeah, so me and Torri have been best friends for 3-4 years at this point. We had our own independent channels. I was doing YouTube. You were mainly doing your Instagram content, all beauty focused. And we were heading out on a press trip. We were flying to LA. And this was the unglamorous part of our life. We were sitting not even beside each other. We had like last minute flights. I was in a middle seat, cramped. We were like tossing bagels to each other, getting people to pass our breakfast back. It was humble beginnings. And I was sitting on in the airplane, listening to podcasts and thinking I would not have gotten through this flight without a podcast. Torri is independently also listening to a podcast, I guess, thinking the exact same thing. Also, for context, maybe about 2 months prior, I'd really been thinking about wanting to start a podcast and to have another platform. And then we reunite at baggage claim. And what did you say to me, Tor?
I looked at her and I had been listening to the podcast called Second Life. So anyone who is unfamiliar, definitely check it out. Really, really highly recommend. And it's basically specifically about women and female entrepreneurs and people making pivots in their careers. And I just loved it so much. And I thought, wow, this woman was so insightful. I love the stories she tells. I love that she interviews people. And so I just look over at Jack and I say, Jack, we need to start a podcast. And she looked back at me and she said, Torri, yes, we do. And it was so weird because we had never talked about it prior. And then we ended up in New York that next weekend and kind of pitched the idea to some friends that were there with us. My boyfriend was in New York with us and Jaclyn's intern at the time was there. So we're at this dinner and we thought we've got it all figured out. We have an A+ plan, making a podcast with no experience. And we sort of pitched them this whole idea of Poddy Talk, which was our idea was to have this podcast sort of unveiling the filters of Instagram and sort of showing the more, not real side, but kind of.
Hop in. We had a very specific moment that really confirmed that we needed to start this podcast.
Yeah.
So when we were chatting, just spitballing, when we initially thought of it, we go, we're here on this glamorous press trip, but we actually had this super unglamorous experience getting here, and people don't always see the behind the scenes. They just see that beautiful end photo or that YouTube video.
For sure.
And we go, that's not us. That's not our life. Sure, that's a part of it, but that's not that day-to-day reality. It really hit us when we ended up going to New York. We were there for New York Fashion Week, and we just had a very humbling moment where we basically got pulled from our front row New York Fashion Week seat.
Yeah.
And we got kicked to the back, and they're like, you don't belong here, you're leaving. And we're like, but we have tickets, we're supposed to be here. And they're like, we don't care, you're a nobody, go to the back. And that was so, this is why we need to start a podcast.
Yeah, it was just, it felt like everyone thought that we were just doing life the glamorous way, and we didn't want that to be our perception. Like we wanted people to think we are businesswomen, we are working hard, we are doing all these other things that make us real humans. And so this podcast was sort of the birth of that. All this to say, at our first pitch meeting, nobody enjoyed the idea. So just want to say to anyone out there that may have an idea or a business idea, just because people at the table don't love it doesn't mean that you should not move forward and persevere and bring it to life.
For sure. I think there's a good balance of, taking feedback from the creatives around you or people in your life who you trust, but it's also a fine line of listening to everyone's feedback and letting that inform what you truly believe. Because we had a moment where we go, okay, we have this idea. We think this makes sense. We want to do this podcast. We conceptualized this name. We thought it was perfect. Poddy Talk podcast. And as soon as we pitched it, everyone was like, oh, I don't think you should do that. That's not a good idea. That's off brand for you.
Yeah.
And we're like, but that's the whole reason why we want to do it. This Poddy Talk podcast, it's a podcast where we smack talk ourselves, and we wanted it to really represent that.
Yeah, no, 100%. I always just find it really funny now. We're coming up on our 1-year anniversary, and I find it really funny to look back at that time and some of that feedback, because I think, and these are people that were super close to us. Like, this was my own boyfriend literally saying, that is not the move. And these are, again, like you said, creative opinions that we really trust, because these guys are also in the creative industries. These are people that we're basically working with and not only spending personal time with. So it was just very confronting. But all this to say, we did start the podcast. It came to life. We started in Jaclyn's closet. We had no experience. We had no budget. We had nothing going for us except an idea.
Neither of us had any experience, especially in the audio world. Like, that is a whole other beast. I was doing YouTube videos, but at a very crazy, amateur scale. And we had no idea how to even begin. So we started to do all this research. We're like, do we need to buy all this gear? And something that me and Tor say a lot in our friendship beyond just work, but we're like, we always just want to be the people that, instead of just talking the talk, we want to walk the walk. Who cares if it's not going to be perfect? Let's just sit down and shoot an episode on a camera without proper mics, and let's just see what happens. And then we can kind of go from there. So we went, I did know, I had a feeling that filming in my walk-in closet at the time would have been the best option, because a lot of the clothing actually absorbs the noise so it doesn't sound tinny. So I'm like, okay, I think that's probably the best call. Let's sit in the closet, which was like dark. Obviously I had no air conditioning, and like we were just sweating and like cramped in this little closet trying to make a podcast, even though it was just a weird at-home video of us giggling in a closet. That was the first episode, though.
It's so funny because, so thinking back, I guess we really only did what, 10, 15 episodes in the closet? Maybe it was only 10.
Yeah, I think what made it feel like it was such a part of it was the fact that we banked a ton of videos, because we had a lot of upcoming travels, and we knew we wouldn't be physically with each other for the following weeks, and we obviously won't be posting consistently. So we're like, we have to block shoot a bunch of stuff. So for like, what, a week straight, we were just, I think we've never been closer as friends, because we were talking for 5 hours a day.
I know,
like,
I know.
Close to each other.
I think it's just so funny. So yeah, so we started in this closet, and it was great. I mean, the audio was good, and the vibe was good, because it did feel so real, as if we were letting people into that BFF conversation, which is what we always wanted it to be like. So it was very nice to see it come to life in that way. Then we made our first pivot as our business grew with the pod. And that was to then bring it to the studio, which was an interesting transition. Maybe you can speak to this, Jack.
Yeah, I think at first, both of us didn't really know what our audiences would think about Poddy Talk, if a podcast was even going to be a long-term thing worth investing in. We knew we personally wanted to do it. But again, you have to, be receptive to your audience and what they're saying. And as soon as we launched, we were really lucky that we had a lot of positive feedback and people who were interested. So we immediately knew we couldn't get away with our really low budget, homemade style of podcast for too much longer, because we also, as much as we did want it to feel authentic, we also wanted to have a certain level of not professionalism, but quality.
I would say, professionalism.
Quality, that people could take us seriously. And so right away we go, okay, we started like brainstorming what's the next move. And we're like, we knew we wanted to start to have guests on the podcast, because we're fortunate to have a great network of friends and people we look up to that we wanted to eventually have on to also share their Poddy Talk stories and their behind the scenes moments. So we knew we had to scale it up a little bit. So I have been working with Bell Media for the past 4 or 5 years. They're my MCM, which is a multi-channel network, and they represent a bunch of different YouTubers. So I've been working with them in that capacity on a one-on-one basis with my personal channel for, the 4 or 5 years. So I was like, you know what? They have studio space, they have real production and gears and the proper tools to help us flourish. And I was like, I have no idea if they're even going to be interested if we can just barge into the studio and film a podcast.
I mean, this is a great example of the second best answer is always no, because really we are completely unqualified as in terms of like what we were doing at that point.
And again, this always makes me think of what we always come back to. It's like, in hindsight, you're like, where did I get that fearlessness from? Because of course, yes, I had a working relationship with this company, but also who was I to waltz in and be like, hey, I'm starting this podcast. Can we have the studio space? Can we like,
but I think all entrepreneurs and self-employed people need to have that strange sense of blind confidence. Like we believed in ourselves. So we're like, if we believe in ourselves, they must believe in us.
Well, that's so true. If you believe in what you're doing and you have that fire and that passion, other people can see it in you. Totally. And basically I had wrote them an email. I was like, hey, can we come in and have a meeting and pitch this idea to you? And everyone was super receptive and
strangely
pretty much ready to get on board right away. And of course it was a bit of time to iron out all the studio space, the timing, the proper gear. but it was so nice to have someone be receptive right away. And again, I think that speaks to you just believing in something. And if someone else feels it and it feels not only real, but again, like, so I guess authentic to what you're doing.
Yeah, and serendipitous too, because I think timing is a big thing, not only for any business owner, but I think especially in entrepreneurship, when you're starting new ventures, timing can play a huge part in either the success or the failure in something. And I think it just was the right timing for us. I remember them saying in that first pitch meeting, oh, this is so interesting. We've actually been, you know, exploring different things with podcasts lately. Like, this is a new thing we're interested in. So it's just putting your foot in the door at the right time. And it's really interesting to see that full circle now come to life.
Not being afraid to fail and learn in public. And we've been saying this from the beginning. We weren't professionals in the podcast world. We still aren't. We still have issues. I mean, look at how I started this live stream. I was trying to add you in. It took me a hot minute.
Right.
And that's okay. And I think that also not only humanizes you, but it's just the reality. We're not perfect. We don't always know what we're doing, but hey, we're willing to learn and we want to try. And I think that's really all you can ask of people.
No, it is. And so the live, well, it's not live. I shouldn't say that. It always feels kind of live in there because it is kind of a real studio.
Big dreams for Poddy.
We have big dreams. Yeah. But when we shoot in studio now versus the closet, it has been interesting to see not only audience feedback, but then also I know you and I sometimes joke something about the closet was so, and I think this is true to any original project. Like I know you feel this way even about your original YouTube videos. There's a way to go back and you're like, whoa, like I don't know what's happening here, but it's working, it's good. It's just something, there's something very natural about it. And I think we obviously had that in a nutshell in the closet, and the studio obviously legitimizes us. But then it's also this sense of how do then we maintain this, you know, relatability, this friendliness, which obviously we want the podcast to inherently have. So it's always this balancing act of we're professional, but we're also relatable. And so melding those worlds together.
Well, and also something that we've even navigated, which hasn't been an issue, but it's been, I guess, like a bit of a road bump sometimes, is again, once we have guests on the podcast, we are in a very professional setting. There are legitimate TV productions happening left, right, and underneath our studio.
Yeah.
And our studio in particular, it's called the Fishbowl, which is a giant glass kind of bubble. It looks like a fishbowl. And we sit and film inside this little glass bubble. So you're seeing every single star, celebrity, talk show host walk by. There was one episode, I think we were filming with a face mask on, a full sheet mask, and Niall Horan was like,
oh, I forgot about Niall walking by
Niall Horan
shooting the podcast.
Yeah, it's the craziest distraction. So it's also getting our guests to a point where they can be in studio and feel comfortable and still be able to have those raw conversations, even though it's a very unnatural setting.
I know. Well, it's kind of ironic because I think naturally in terms of comfort of conversation, sitting in a small space that's like darker and more chill is the way to get the tea. But we are under like literally the brightest TV lights in this sort of very artificial but not type space.
Yeah.
And so it's really been, I mean, again, going back to what we were originally saying, every layer of a business is changing as you grow and as you go on. And it's been really, I mean, such a joy really to see the podcast change and grow. But I don't know, I find our transitions very fun.
It's definitely so funny to look back, and again, everything happens, I believe, at the right time for the right reasons. But I agree, there is something so special about our beginnings in the closet, not knowing what we were doing. And sometimes it really just I think it honestly just speaks to the essence of Poddy Talk. It's the whole idea of growth, learning, faking it till you make it.
Totally.
That's what we're about.
And I think for anyone listening that has any interest in starting a project of their own, I really do truly believe you can start something with just an idea. And like we didn't have, I mean, even wardrobe, for example, I had this insane idea that we should be matching in every single episode, which in hindsight, hilarious that I've created this barrier for us.
It's starting to become a bit of a problem, I will say.
But it's fine because I still love it. We also can't
repeat an outfit according to Torri.
I know. I have high standards for the pod. But anyways, so
luckily College Spring helps us out with that sometimes.
It's true. And so I think it's really funny because when we first started, I was just, everything we had matching was basically jerseys. Like it was just like Toronto Maple Leaf jerseys or just Raptors jerseys, like things any normal Torontonian would have in their office. in their office, in their closet.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, it's just very hilarious to the point that I was like, Jaclyn, we got to wear our matching Maple Leaf jersey today. We're heading to work. We're heading into the office. It's just hilarious.
Yeah.
I just appreciate the energy.
Well, that's also, I think it speaks to the idea, if other people are watching who have an idea and it hasn't yet come to fruition. The whole thing about Poddy Talk was the fact that we didn't really stew over it for too long, because I think it's so easy, especially when you're an entrepreneur. You're invested. It's your passion. It's you're the face of it most times, especially in an instance like a podcast. So you're very personally connected and critical of yourself. So you can shut down your idea before it would even get shot, because you're like, oh, well, that's not going to work. Well, what if people don't like that?
Totally.
And it's of course, it's natural to have self-doubt. We did. That's why we went to our friends for advice, and we trusted when we originally had the idea. But we had the idea. It was honestly really birthed within 2 or 3 days. And once we had decided, we had set a date to film our first episode, again, without having a business plan, without really looking too far into the future. Yeah. What we always say, just at least try it, get it going. And then you can kind of figure out all those other things later. But the idea of actually doing it is better than not doing it at all. Even if it would have been perfect, it's better 100%. To do it and not have it be perfect, you know? And
now 1 year later, we have 50 episodes, which is insane.
It's crazy. 50 episodes. We've been
That's 50 hours of content. That's more than 50 hours of content, because each episode tends to be 45 to an hour and a bit.
Right. More than 50 episodes. We have over 300,000 minutes of listening time, and that's crazy to think that people actually listen to what we say. Sometimes that blows my mind still. But also,
it's great.
The scale, how quickly it got scaled up, and the guests that we're fortunate enough to have on. And
totally. Do you have a guest? A favorite
guest? Oh, it's so hard. I feel like it was nice because we started off with our guests, a lot of them being friends and people we would have in the business. So I'm always intrigued with each guest that we have to pick their brain, to hear about their low Poddy Talk moment.
It's so true.
They weren't as cool as they thought they were. They had their New York Fashion Week moment like we did, kind of thing.
Yeah.
What about you? Do you have a favorite guest that we've had on the pod?
I mean, Alyssa obviously comes to mind, who works for Call It Spring. We had such a joyful conversation with her, and I love learning about sort of the faces behind these amazing brands. I just think that is so interesting, and hearing the behind the scenes of it all, because there's obviously different ways to be connected in this industry. We are on the creator side of things, but I'm always very curious about what's going on the brand side of things. And so Alyssa's conversation was super enlightening to me. But similar to what you were saying, anyone that's a friend that you're welcoming on the podcast is always just hilarious, because it's nice to have that rapport.
Well, that's what's so special about the podcast too. It's that I feel like our industry, we work more in the social media industry. I feel like sometimes it can get a bad rep for being surface level or superficial, or you hear the drama come up in pop culture news, things like that. Yeah. And I've always said that I feel really fortunate, whether it's our location, we're here in Toronto, Canada, and we're really lucky to have an amazing, strong community of creators and creatives.
Totally.
And so I don't know if it's that, or if it's just, the amazing people that we have connected with. We get to have these conversations about seemingly superficial, maybe more surface level topics, and get to those deeper layers and have those real conversations. And I always leave, especially when we have a guest, being like, well, one, obviously I feel so insightful and I feel like I've learned so many things, but also being like, oh, wow, I not only have a friend in that person, but I know I can confide in that person. And you're having that connection, which is all that we try to do through podcasts or social media.
Re-inspired, 100%.
Totally.
I think also something very interesting about the podcast that was new and different for both you and I was building a platform again from ground up, which is so hard and doesn't get enough claps for people just not starting over, because that's not really what we did, but building a new audience and a community that cares about something else that you're doing other than your main channel.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think something that we always talk about whenever, because people will ask us whether it's in real life or online, how do you not get discouraged when you're starting a side hustle or starting a passion project? And I think one is being realistic with your expectations. We went into it truly not even knowing how anyone would react. We had no number goals, financial goals.
No, we didn't. It was you and I just wanting to have fun, which I think needs to be the approach.
Totally, exactly.
Because let's be honest, for 15 hours, if not 25 of those 50 hours we've created this year, has just been us having fun. You know what I mean? No brands attached, no monetary money attached. I think if that's not the foundation or, the fundamental purpose of your business is like fun and being re-inspired and all those things, and really I should say side hustle. If that's not it, if that's not at the core of it, then you're gonna get bored or you're gonna fall off. What if every Wednesday I was like, not feeling it, not showing up today, but like there's never been a Wednesday we've missed.
Well, and that's the thing, we hold each other accountable, and I think it's, especially if you're collaborating with other people, we're lucky we are best friends. And again, it's another thing that people said when we first were ideating this whole podcast. It's, are you sure you want to get into business with your best friend?
Oh, right.
And of course, it's something to consider. And I know there are people feel strongly on either side.
True.
But it's finding people that you do work well with, but that you respect as well. And I think if you have that like foundational layer of respect, any tough conversation, whether it's business, work related, friendship, like all of it melts together, and you have to be able to have that working relationship with those people.
Totally. And I think that falls into the next topic really nicely, because I know we wanted to sort of talk about the content creation, what is sort of going on behind the scenes for us, because let's be honest, the only thing people are actually seeing is the final product, and that's the actual finished episode.
Yeah.
I think some interesting tidbits that maybe even from a partnership perspective for people that might want to know, but I mean, we split the work 50-50 completely. Like you're editing and putting it up and uploading an episode 1 week, then I'm doing that the next week, and if it happens to be 2 episodes in a row, then we're flipping off and doing that. I think that's really important. I think that
I agree.
It would be really strange, actually, I think, if only one of us was tackling that, and it would start to feel like burdenous. Is that a word? Like a bit of a burden?
Sound like a word to me.
Potty talk words? I don't know.
Yeah, we have our own dictionary at Potty Talk. Burdenous.
Yeah.
But
I do think that's very key, because I think having an equal level of investment in the project is very important.
Totally.
And I think we have that really nicely, but I can see how partnerships could become a little bit challenging if someone is, let's say, 75% invested and the other person is only the other half invested.
Totally.
So
it's also interesting too, I know we kind of touched on it a bit earlier about getting discouraged, whether it's about numbers or maybe your business isn't taking off as quick as you thought it would, whether it's any business, social media or not. I think it's very easy to compare, and this is something that everyone talks about. Comparison is the thief of joy, all of those quotes, but it really is so true. And it was, again, kind of an awakening for me when we started this podcast. Again, you're starting these new platforms when I've been so used to having an audience on my YouTube channel and on Instagram and having a great community already there. And sure, you hope that you have a bit of crossover, but starting off something from scratch, it always is tough. And it's also easy to forget, even though I experienced it, I spent 5 years of putting in countless hours every single day to get my YouTube audience to where it was. So that, like, you have to.
I know, it's so funny. I think this is so 2020 of us, this modern, we want this instantaneous, these instantaneous numbers, this instantaneous success. And that's a really great point. We can both sit here and say, even on our own personal channels, how many years it took to get to that spot. And I mean, this is 1 year into the podcast, and it's been amazing to see what we've been able to accomplish in a year. But then you really have to think, okay, that's great. What will it even look like in 6 years then? Right. Like you have to see, it seems really backwards, but especially I believe in this social sphere of things, you have to be looking 5 years ahead, because if you're not, then you're only really focusing on the numbers you don't have. And I don't know, I feel like you can't even focus on that.
No, totally. I agree.
That's just negative. And also, I really don't think, I mean, of course numbers matter, and of course, we won't say numbers don't matter, but I think what matters more is an engaged community, and a community of people that are popping on every week to watch that latest episode, or to, you know, support our new venture, whether that's cough cough merch or, you know, whatever.
Oh, we're teasing it on the live stream. Okay. You can hear it first, but merch. Maybe.
But again, like even on that little, you know, it's a separate note, but in a lot of ways it's not, because I think it also speaks to us constantly trying to innovate, constantly trying to come up with new things to share with our audiences. And again, things that we have no experience in, just flagging, like just literally some fake it till you make it energy all the time.
Yeah. And it's also, again, always learning. We're so lucky to be in 2020 where we have the access. And right now, a lot of us do have time to learn new skills. I'm someone who's always trying to adapt and learn to, whether it's new apps, you have the TikToks, the new platforms.
100%.
Trying to understand that, trying to refine my editing skills, my audio technician skills, like all these things that I don't have any formal training or experience in, but it's also being open to learn. And as an entrepreneur, you're going to have to wear a lot of hats that you might not be prepared for. But the reality is that you have to really have your hands involved in all aspects of your business.
100%.
Yeah.
And what I find interesting too, and maybe goes back to the partnership side of things for both of us is, and I think for a lot of partners or entrepreneurs in business with a friend or with whoever, you have to find someone that's complementary in skill set.
Oh,
because
we say this all the time. We are the perfect like puzzle piece of skill
yeah.
set.
Because we're very different. I mean, you're very detail oriented. Like you're willing to sit there and learn something. Like you're kind of finicky like that. Like you'll just put in the effort to learn something.
I spent an entire night, I didn't sleep because we had some audio issues. And I swear, 24 hours straight fine-tuning the audio of an episode.
And that's just something I would really never do. And that is why it works.
But your skill set, you are so amazing. You are a true communicator and people person. So it's so nice to have you
a true communicator.
No, but you are. And and whether we're taking a business phone call, I let you take the lead because I know you're so great at effectively communicating and being assertive and in a positive way. Like you truly have that businesswoman spirit that we always talk about. And I would much rather be on the creative back end side doing all of those details and you know, sitting at my computer, and you can be the face and present out to the world in that way. And again, that's where we kind of complement each other. And
yeah,
you got it. And you let me shine in those areas. And
100%.
Never fighting. And that's
don't dull the sparkle, baby.
Hey, there we go. That's another dictionary quote from the Poddy Talk glossary, I guess we'll say.
No, it's true though. I think you have to find a partner that's complementary to you, and we've been lucky enough to do that. And also to that same point, our jobs day to day working on our individual channels are, I mean, it's very isolating. We are the faces of our brands. We are the only ones really advocating for ourselves and for our brands. And that's really interesting to come together then and have two strong personalities and two strong women kind of at the forefront of a new venture. I think it's really great because
I think it's something that we always talk about. We both grew up in the acting industry when we were younger, and we talked about this on the podcast many of times, how that is very much so an industry. We are both so grateful, and you're still very involved in it. But it was definitely an industry that there is one winner, there is one person booking a role, and you're fighting against all these other girls who look exactly like you, who are your same age. You guys are basically carbon copies of each other, and you're all fighting for that one thing. And it inherently is a very competitive and tough business. Yeah. And again, I think we both grew really thick skin from that. But we always say we feel so lucky now we get to be at a place where we're in control of our business, and we get to bring two strong, independent females together and not pit each other against each other. We get to be stronger together, and we have a common goal, and we get to thrive together, which is so unheard of.
Totally.
Growing up in my experience.
Yeah, and I will say, like, the hustle is real. I think besides obviously the fact that the social media world comes off very glamorous, there is a lot of work that goes into everything that we're putting out, whether that's personally or as a combo in our Poddy Talk world. I mean, there's so much time creating content, the ideation phases, the editing phases. I mean, Adam and I were playing, or Adam is my boyfriend, and we were playing around today for like a 3 to 4 minute-ish video, maybe shorter. The amount of shots or the amount of outfit changes, it's endless, but then it comes together so quickly and so seamlessly that it can appear effortless. And
that's your job. That's why you're hired.
You're 100%.
Look like
it's our job to make it look easy. That's like a good actor. A good actor is just going to make it feel like real life. Yeah. But I do think that's very interesting. However, with all that being said, I think it's so worth it. And I think I love being a part of this industry because I would say in a lot of ways we're at the forefront of a new age of it. I mean, there wasn't a lot of people when we started that I was able to look up to. I mean, more locally, like I know obviously there was people that
I completely agree though.
There was a lot of people that had already built wonderful audiences and were sharing a ton of content and working really organically with brands. But I didn't see that in a relatable local way. I didn't know anyone in Toronto that was working at that level doing that.
You were one of my first internet like friends.
Yeah, you were one of my first internet friends.
I don't have any social media friends, but
no, I agree.
Forefront of that.
Yeah, which is so interesting. And so that's been really nice too, is watching the industry shift and in a really positive way, I would say. Just the level of content being created now is is amazing. And I think this kind of goes into our next topic, which is now, while we're all in self-isolation, watching the content that's being put out now is fantastic because people are so creative. They're coming up with the most insane, I can't even understand, like TikTok, just the
TikTok has been ruining my life.
But it's just crazy.
TikToks? I don't want to feel alone in this.
No, totally. I am loving the TikTok world, but I also I just have my hat off right now for all the creators because I think people are being so thoughtful about what they're putting out, but they're also challenging themselves and finding new ways to communicate with their audiences. And I've actually been loving it in that way.
I think it goes both ways too. And I think, and I say this more for anyone listening who maybe is being hard on themselves. Yeah. I mean, being a creative, whatever creative career that you're in, or not creative, really any career, especially the times that we're in right now, obviously that has a whole additional layer of stress and, there's a lot going on and a lot to digest. So I think it's also important that, yes, you can take this time to flourish and do these incredible ideas and start that side hustle and commit to that time, which is great if you're feeling up to it. I saw a really great tweet, or someone had posted something about being gentle to yourself, and it's not a productivity contest, and you need to prioritize yourself and your health first,
100%,
your well-being. And if you're not feeling creatively inspired right now, that's okay. You can totally be gentle with yourself. And this time, of course, I can see how it will not spark your creativity. But then also some people sitting bored in the house, that might be the fuel that they need. So it can go either way. And I really hope, my message is always to trust like your intuition with that.
100%. Yeah. I think you have to. And I think that it can also be very powerful to just tune out. Like it can be powerful to shut off the social media platforms and just kind of take a moment to yourself, whether that's someone you're self-isolating with, or, you know, go for a walk or cook or just take your mind off things.
What are any new habits or hobbies? Have you been taking up anything?
Well, yeah, there's a few. So the first one definitely being cooking, because anyone that knows me knows I am no chef, but I am now. I got an air fryer. Highly recommend, honestly.
Yeah, how's that going?
So good. Just honestly unreal. It's amazing. Not only great for the vegetables, great for salmon, great for chicken. I'm truly loving it, and it's making my life easy.
Turning into a cooking show. I'm calling it now.
Oh, it would be amazing.
So, sell aprons? Can that be part of our merch?
Maybe. I love that.
But yeah, where we'll work on the slogan for that.
But no, yeah, it's been really nice. It's distracting in a nice way, and I never ever, you know, my favorite quote was, someone would say, "Oh, do you like cooking?" And I would look blankly at them and I would say, "No joy. It brings me no joy." And I said that for years. I just said I have literally no joy cooking.
And I'm so happy.
My air fryer
I'm
has brought me joy.
Opposite. I'm such a I love cooking at home. I love being my own little chef. And it would drive me nuts because I would invite Torri to like a baking night, and just actually at the point that it was a little dangerous to have her in the kitchen. So now I can see this. I'm
just a hazard. I'm adding no value. Yeah, people are commenting, "I love my air fryer." I am right there with you.
Oh, is this a thing? I don't have one. Is this like a new trend?
So good. I can't explain it. You can make homemade French fries.
And it's like oil free. Is that the whole premise?
Well, you can use like olive oil, but nothing. It's not a deep fryer, so it's nothing is unhealthy or gross. Yeah, exactly. So good.
Wow.
So I've been loving that. And then also beyond that, I mean, you and I both obviously very in tune with, you know, the physicality of life. Like we love working out, we love running. So I've just been trying to stay busy in that way, whether that's yoga, if I'm feeling off one day, doing a slower pace yoga, or if I'm feeling really good, run a 5 or 10K. So yeah.
Yeah.
How about you?
Amazing. And also,
and my addiction with TikTok, but we've discussed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, TikTok
is just so addictive.
Did you really go through self-isolation if you didn't get on TikTok? That is my
question. Exactly.
Something that I know that we've been doing, because we've been participating in this, we've been having really fun, whether it's like FaceTime hangouts, Zoom hangouts, and initiating like games nights digitally.
Yeah, for all the girls. Yeah.
And there's been so many amazing apps, and we've been playing Jackbox TV, all these different things.
What was the really fun one we found? Scribblio?
It's like a drawing game. You can get
so fun. Highly recommend that game.
Totally. And it doesn't matter where you are in the world, and you can be playing games with like my cousin's, you know, in the UK right now, and she's been joining in on our games nights. And it's such a good reminder of the times that it's actually so strange, and it seems like it would be backwards, but I feel like I've never talked to these people more in my life, and these are people who are friends and family who I talk to all the time.
Yeah.
But especially given the nature of the times, I have been talking to these people every day, which is such a treat and a privilege, and spending quality time. Like there's no distractions because there's no other noise when you are in, you know, self-isolation. So it's been really lovely to reconnect, even though it's not IRL. You know what I'm saying?
I know, I agree. I've had many friends just call me up and say, hey, we haven't touched base lately. What's going on? And you end up having these 3-hour catch-ups with all of, you know, the homies. And it's so nice. And it's something that I know you and I especially don't do a lot because we're always on the road, and that's a huge part of our job and our work-life balance. But I mean, I don't think I've spent this much time in my own space, in my condo, in probably 5 years, which is crazy.
God. Yeah, that is crazy.
Like 2 months in the city, I don't think I've spent that much time at home in a really long time.
Well, that's the thing. If there's going to be any silver lining, I think this is a very unique time that I don't know if we'll ever have this much time in our lives again.
It's so nice to reset.
So if there's any silver lining, I think that's something to take away from it. And yeah, again, just being like gentle with her. Like, again, there's times when I don't feel motivated to work out because, you know, of the situation. But guess what? That's okay. And that's the whole thing. And of course, we love to be productive with our work, and we do our best, and we have been keeping up with our podcast throughout all of this. We've been finding new ways to do it on Zoom and things like that. But again, we had an episode and the audio was not working. But guess what? It's okay. We're doing our best. And that goes back to our whole motto of at least we're trying and we're putting it out there. And that's all I can ask for. I
think that's worth discussing too, because obviously this self-isolation time has put pressure on our careers in the sense that a lot of our work is either going to events or traveling on press trips or, of course, creating content that's not in the house. But the podcast was really interesting because you would think that would be the first it'd be great if I could speak. What is that?
It's okay. The first, let me see if I can like read your mind in true podcast stuff.
Firstshire? No, I can't. That's why I'm stalling myself. See, it's so confusing. Something is in my head, but it's not coming out. It's like, you want me to take over? I can take over. No, I'm good. You know when a word is in your head and it's not happening, but it's fine.
It's okay.
You would think the podcast would be the first thing to go. That's what I was trying to say. Because you'd think we wouldn't be able to be in studio. We don't have the proper gear. So initially when this was all going down, we were thinking, okay, maybe we'll take a week off. Maybe we'll take 2 weeks off. And then we never did, because then we kind of got zesty and I had that initial idea that I'd call in on FaceTime. That's how it initially started. And I was like, I'll call in, and that's really funny, and we can record that. And then it just sort of evolved, and we found Zoom, and then we started recording on Zoom. So I guess all this to say, it's a great time to find new ways to create. Well,
and that actually reminds me of something that I wanted to chat about, and that was we have now had access in terms of guests to so many people that we would have never, at least in the near future, been able to. We've had guests who are based out of California. We've had people from Vancouver.
Totally.
In
Montreal.
Other Toronto locals whose schedules are typically so busy that now we're able to Zoom in and have that episode featuring them that wouldn't have happened.
It's so insane. And these are also people that are just huge audiences, A-list people that maybe it would have never worked out, because also that's a huge commitment to ask on other people's ends. Once things do get back to normal, asking for 2 hours of someone's time in a workday is going to seem impossible, I would say.
Of course.
So no, it's been such a treat to be able to have such amazing guests over the last few weeks, and absolutely people that we would not typically be able to get a hold of. So it's really crazy that I guess things work out.
And in very Poddy Talk spirit, you know, we got used to recording in the closet from our OG days. As soon as we got comfortable, boom, switching it up into studio. We finally just got the proper lab mic, the proper podcast gear, so we feel like real podcasters. And then boom, what do you know? We're transferring to Zoom. So speaks to the whole nature of the industry of things are always changing, times are always changing. You have to be adaptable, and especially in this industry, you have to be willing to pivot.
I know.
We've been pivoting.
something about specifically our industry, I feel like more than ever, it's all about being adaptable, just changing it up on a blink. And I think that's really interesting. And I don't know why that's the expectation, but even content wise, it's like no one wants to see the same thing. No one wants to see the same angle. Everyone wants to see something new. Well, I don't know if it plays into the whole idea that everyone is, again, looking for that instantaneous.
It's so refreshing to see not only how content creators adapt their work, but also brands. Like, we're lucky enough to be on LIVESTREAM with Call It Spring, who's an amazing
100%.
partner of the podcast and a brand that we both individually love.
Yeah.
And to have the opportunity to even do a live podcast episode while streaming on Instagram, like, who would have thought even a year ago this would have been a thing that we would have been doing?
I know.
Again, it's brands having that unique perspective and
totally
staying fresh and
working on the
not
fly
being afraid to take that like new risk, because anything new is scary. You don't know how it's going to work, and just being, I guess, like, having the fire to
the
do
chutzpah.
Yeah.
Do you love that word?
Yes.
Another word to add to the dictionary.
I know.
I love that.
Can we do a little Q&A and see if anyone has any questions they'd like to ask, or any input on any of the topics we've been chatting about?
Yeah, you guys can ask us anything you're interested in. We can talk about anything biz related, anything podcast related. If you have a business idea you want to pitch to us,
yeah, that's very true. Yeah, if you have any of your own Poddy Talk pitches, whether that's your own side hustle and you want us to be the first listen, we won't give you the same energy that our first listens when we pitched gave us. Does that make sense? We're not going to shut you down. That's what we're saying. We got shut down when we first pitched Poddy Talk.
Yeah, we won't shut anyone down. It is, though, I also will say this specific time of self-isolation has been such a nice time to reflect on accomplishments. I feel like very often, not only as people that are self-employed, because we're just always looking for the next gig or the next opportunity or the next business venture, it's been really interesting going from a pace of 1,000, I felt like my life was always moving 1,000,000 miles a minute, to this sort of sense of stillness and being able to reflect on really 5 to 10 years of insane work. Like, I don't think I ever gave myself the moment to be appreciative of the efforts I put in, or appreciative of what I've been able to build or accomplish. And that's been really, really nice, I would say, to have that self-reflection time. Totally, I agree. I think the nature of 2020 is hustle, keep going. What's next? And again, that's part of being an entrepreneur. You always have to be 5 steps ahead. You don't ever want to feel stagnant. But also on the flip side, as an individual, mentally, that can kind of get you caught up. And I agree. You're never patting yourself on the back, which, again, it has to be a fine balance. But we very much so need to be taking moments to say, hey, that amazing accomplishment that I did two months ago, or that amazing milestone that I hit last week, they're worth celebrating, big or small. 100%. Our first question is, will you guys ever try acting again? Just curious. Love you both. Super nice. Love you too. That's amazing. I mean, I can take that away, I guess. I started in acting. That was sort of how I began my spirits as a young creative. And I loved it. I loved acting. I continue to act. I still have a agent. I still audition for things all the time. I was supposed to be shooting something this summer, but sadness. I don't know if it'll come to life, but we will see. I will say fingers crossed. Yeah, this is an interesting conversation that we were chatting actually this morning. We filmed another regular Poddy Talk episode, which will be out next week. Yeah. And we were talking a little bit about the acting industry and how it really is so fascinating that there's a lot of new projects where you kind of see all the worlds blending together. You'll see some huge social media stars be on a project with more traditional actors. And then you'll see, traditional media using digital media marketing to really amplify their content. So it is kind of a weird limbo that we're in right now. And I think honestly what we'll see in the future is the world's coming together closer and closer. And I agree. Acting was my very first love. And I think we both just really love being on camera. I will say, I don't think that piece ever goes away. Like, I've always maintained that I am a performer. I don't know if you guys have ever done, it's a personality test. Highly recommend if you haven't done it. But it basically tells you what It's called your spark. And that basically tells you what you go through life looking for. Like what is sparking.
Oh, your spark type, right? We did this.
Yeah.
Podcast,
and mine was literally performance. Like I go through life to perform for other humans. And I think that's very telling based on my personality.
Yeah.
So anyways, all that to say, it's not going anywhere. I think we will end up on your screens at some point. Stay tuned. Fingers crossed.
Even if it's just your cell phone screens, I'll take it at this point.
100%. I agree. The next question. Oh, sorry. There's another question.
Okay, you go first.
Okay. Someone said, I want to start a baking channel. What are your thoughts on starting a business now during quarantine? I say go for it. I love baking content. We've been talking to friends lately that are creating bread. It is a whole new world.
Are you a fan of Bon Appetit? I love that channel. That's all I watch.
Yeah, you specifically love the baking channels. But beyond the specific baking channel, it's a great time to be sharing and a great time to be creating. And I think as long as you're being thoughtful with your content and being, not tone deaf to the times, I think it's an amazing time to start a new venture.
Yeah, and I think the reality is there are more eyeballs than ever, whether it be on YouTube or Instagram. People are searching how to bake a banana bread because we're all baking banana bread right now, or whatever it is. We have the time to explore that. So of course, if that's a passion you've been wanting to do, I saw someone's comment, I love Bon Appetit. Yes, thank you. If that's something you've been wanting to do, I think there's no better time than the present. And it's always post that first video, get over the fear of the first upload, because that one's always the scariest. You feel a little weird about it. You're like, people are going to judge me. Just post that first video and then pivot from there.
I completely agree. The next question is, any advice for a new vlogger still hesitating on switching my YouTube channel from private to public? LOL, that's what you were literally just saying.
Yeah.
I say go right now and make your first video public. Just
Once you're done watching this, go switch it over. I think it's interesting. So I posted my very first YouTube video. It was 2014. I was 16 at the time, definitely in an awkward phase. And there definitely were those initial hesitations. Also, though, think in 2014, social media was more on the cusp of being like the cool mainstream thing. It was kind of before it was fully like a proper business, and people were still kind of figuring out if that was the right move. Yeah. So at that time, I had just kind of finished high school, and I was so honestly afraid of what I thought my peers would think of me. I'm like, are they gonna think I'm a weirdo posting these videos on the internet, talking to myself in my bedroom? Like, it was still kind of a weird thing at that time. And then luckily over the years, it's more of a mainstream thing. Everyone's got a YouTube channel these days, or everyone's trying to make that side hustle become their main hustle. So yeah, I think you just got to go for it. And just as much as you can, drown out those voices in your head that are saying, oh, are people going to think I'm weird? Oh, is this not good enough? Oh, is this not the quality that I wanted? Yeah. Just post that first video.
It also goes back to what we had started this episode saying, which was entrepreneurs, specifically anyone self-employed, and really everyone, but I say specifically to that market of people, need to have confidence in themselves. Because if you don't believe in you, if you don't believe in making that first video live, why should I care? And I don't mean that in like a rude way or an intense way. I mean that really genuinely. It's like, I want people to be so obsessed with what they're creating and thinking, I need 100,000 people to watch this. I think this is epic work. I think this is worth watching. And having that sort of a little bit, like blinders on a little bit, just so that you really, really are believing in yourself. I mean, I've lived my life like that, and I can tell you, it's fun. Like, you just have to believe in yourself. No one else is going to do it.
A genuine piece of advice, actually, that I just thought of, that honestly I genuinely wish I knew at that time. I feel like everyone always says the same advice of, oh, just be yourself. And one, I was 16. I don't think I really even knew who I fully was. Sure, I had an idea of myself, and I thought I was being myself, but I look back, and when I actually watch my videos, I realized that I really kind of muted out my personality, because I was being what I thought at the time a beauty guru was. Cool. Yeah. I was like, oh, well, I'm going to make a video on how to do winged eyeliner. So I'm going to be, and at the time I was also afraid of not being taken seriously because I was so young. But again, that was my own preconceived idea. No one was saying that. Right. So in my videos, I was like, hey, I need to be very professional, to the point. Let me be very informative and useful, and not have fun and have that personality, which is so inherently who I am. Yeah. And I look back at those videos and I go, oh, I remember editing out that clip where I said that quirky thing because I thought that was dumb, or that came across as immature. And again, it's not that I wasn't being myself, but I was, I guess, filtering out those moments to keep it in this very perfect idea of what I thought it had to be.
Right.
So I guess actually that's the advice I would give. It's
but I
only
think
be
that
yourself,
I think also comes with time though. I'm talking more about that just self-belief. Of course, be yourself, but I do think that comes with time because that also comes with experience.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to be fully yourself until you have explored that creative side.
No, there's a learning curve.
You've stared at your face 1,000 times and you realize what's funny and what's engaging and what's not.
You know what doesn't work for you, and then you know what works for you.
For sure, but I'm saying those beginning moments, and I know you can relate to this too, those first auditions or posting that first video. It's like, just put the blinders on, believe in yourself. You gotta keep going, just push forward, keep pushing. So I don't know, whoever made that comment, I really want you to go make your video live, because I think
they had commented. I saw it was a deal. So
I love that.
DM us or tweet us after so we can check it out, because we would love to watch.
That's awesome. Yeah, please send it to us. The next question is, have you guys ever dealt with imposter syndrome? If so, what did you do to overcome it?
That is, I think, a question for me. This is something that I talk about a lot, and I don't know if it's necessarily full-fledged imposter syndrome. But for me, I kind of sometimes struggle with the idea. I'm someone, I love to practice gratitude. We have a game on our podcast where we do Roses and Thorns, which is like a gratitude game.
Yes.
So I'm someone that I do like to I start every day with a gratitude journal. And that's something that is very important to my general spirit day to day. And so I kind of was in this weird moment for a certain amount of time where my life was very busy. I was very, I guess, typically successful in terms of my business. And I was traveling a lot and working with all these amazing brands and really hitting all the boxes that I would have wanted to be doing. And I had this moment where I was almost sad because I was like, how did I get so lucky that all of my dreams are coming true when I know I'm just a regular girl? Yes, I'm working hard, but I'm not working any harder than the person sitting left to me. I just got very lucky and the timing worked out. And I always had this very, I was so grateful for it, but it also was like, why me? And I don't know if that's necessarily exactly what imposter syndrome is, but it was something that I really, it took me a while to, I don't want to say get over it, but come to terms with it, and also be like, yes, I am lucky, accept it, and learn how you could spread that positivity and spread that onto someone else who maybe could use it.
Completely.
So that's kind of,
I don't know. I mean, we've even had, I think, a whole episode on the podcast discussing this. I don't know that I've gone through imposter syndrome. I think I have this really strong sense of self and work ethic, and I'm really aware of how hard I've worked. I know that sounds really backwards, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think people maybe think that's like, ego, conceited, and I really don't mean it in that way. It's like I have this really strong connection with myself and what I've accomplished and what I do. And so I actually don't feel like I fall into the imposter syndrome very often, because I am really in my own lane. Like, I try not to even go out into the world. Like, I would say that's actually harder. The comparison game is much harder to me than the imposter syndrome. Like, I believe in myself and I believe in what I've accomplished, and I'm not tripped out by any of that. But I think what's crazier is how saturated and loud this industry is, and how many people are doing the same things. That is more what I find overwhelming.
So we're so opposite. See, I'm the complete opposite.
Yeah. Like, I'm not in my own head about it.
Yeah.
At all in terms of the imposter syndrome, but I would say I fall more into this is so overwhelming because it's so saturated and crazy and all of these things. But I mean, yeah, but it must be just a personality type. No matter what, no one is perfect in this.
Yeah, like, there's no right or wrong, and the reality is it's always like a roller coaster. I always say there's ups and there's downs, but as long as those highs are getting higher than the lows, and I think it's worth it. 100%,
yeah. And I do think specifically for women and women that are self-employed, we more than ever need to be the cheerleaders, not only for each other, but for ourselves, which is why I think I really try to not fall into those dips, because we need to be at the forefront of this industry doing our best,
Totally.
So yeah, can't dwell on the negative.
No, I completely agree. Are there any other questions that caught your eye, Tor?
I'm just going back. Someone is commenting. Absolutely. Thank you. I love when people agree. There might have been one or two more that I saw. Yeah. Okay. So something about brand trips. Can you guys talk more about brand trips and working with brands? How do you guys get to go on these cool trips, or work with these cool brands and awesome trips? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so I guess, I mean, it was pretty similar for both of us, I guess, in the way that we started building up a rapport of clients and different brands that we were working with. And then typically what happens is brands will have different launches or exciting things that they want to share with their target demographics or audiences. And if we happen to be in touch with those audiences on our social platforms, they may ask us to come on those trips to talk about the new product launch, or to, I don't know, play with something that's not on the market yet, depending on what type of brand it is. So yeah, but a lot of our work behind the scenes is client relations and chatting with brands and seeing what's new and following their trends. And we're sort of like media, like the way that people used to be editors for magazines and how they would select different things to talk about in their magazine. That's basically what we do, but for social media. Like, that's a good way to explain it, right?
The idea of brand trips has actually been something which I didn't even realize. It's been something that's been around, you know, ever since the day and age of marketing. It's
I know. I thought it was new too, but then I was like, no, this is
what's new is that they're allowing us lame social media people to go on.
It's just newer that creators have been invited on them.
Totally. And this is something I think that, Torri, you would agree with, and we talk about this all the time. And it's really those opportunities that, one, get to humanize you, because oftentimes you're, you know, just hopping on a phone call, or you're emailing, or you're having that screen to screen connection, but not in real life FaceTime. And I always think those are beautiful opportunities to, of course, do your job and whether get the product, shoot the product, do those videos, whatever your obligations are, but also to make those real life human connections. And not just for the sake of having the connections, but I think we're both very similar. Like, we do value, I mean, we have very inherently unsocial jobs despite us being social media content creators. Like, we're at home all the time. So the fact that I get to go out with the brand that I love and meet these incredible people behind it and have an amazing dinner with them and get 100%. That I love the social aspect of it. It really is fulfilling.
Yes. Okay, last question, because I know we're tight on time. Can you guys do a podcast episode where you read listeners' embarrassing stories and react to them?
It's an amazing idea.
Absolutely.
Can we steal an idea?
Absolutely. We are stealing that idea. We'll bring it to life over the next few weeks. Everyone DM us your embarrassing stories right now.
Wait, that is so good. Why haven't we thought of that?
I love that idea.
On the Poddy Talk ideas team.
That is an amazing, amazing pitch. We will be stealing it, and thank you so much. No, but in all seriousness, thank you. Oh, one last thing. I feel bad someone's asking. Okay, what are some suggestions for building an audience for someone who wants to turn their passion into a business? I mean, look, we just spent 30 minutes talking about how hard it can be to build an audience from the ground up, but
listen, we have a good viewer though. They commented, just do it. That's what we've been saying.
It's so true. Just do it. Consistency is key. Be authentic, be yourself, have amazing creative content, but also have really good lighting. I feel like
there are also 50 no's before you get one yes. So don't stop, because that next no could be a yes.
The second best answer is always no. So don't ever be afraid to just ask the question. Call it spring. We love you. We love the whole team. Thank you so much for having us on this. This was so fun.
Our first Poddy Talk live episode.
This is the first time we've gone live.
Then the Call It Spring and Poddy Talk Instagram to make it happen. This has been so much fun.
Yes, and this has been awesome bringing it to life with you, Jack, the one and only partner in crime.
Can we do a high
five as always?
You got to go up, right? No, you turn your hand upside down. High five. Go. Look at us.
Love that.
That's my co-host, baby.
That's my co-host, baby. Love your work. Love your work. Yes, thank you so much for all your questions, for cheering us on down below in all the comment section. We will see you next time. Make sure to check us out at Jaclyn Forbes, at Torri Webster, at Poddy Talk Podcast. We love you. See you next time.
We'll see you soon, guys.
We out.
Bye.